James, this is the time of year that, you've got listed companies like Qantas, reporting their profit results. Well, Coles, the giant retailer, did that. Its profits were actually, they'd been hammered, but it said one of the big problems it had was a big jump in stealing. When you include theft and wastage of fresh food together, that jumped 20%. And most of that, I guess, is the thievery, because it seems Australians are catching up to this storm, this almost like, going viral on video on YouTube, of shop stealing in the US, particularly California. Swarms of people just going in, taking what they want, no one daring to stop them. It's, like I say, viral on the internet. Target in the US says that theft will now cost it $780 million in just 1 year. What's going on now?
Well, I think you're quite right to associate the rise in shoplifting here in Australia with events in the US. If you go back to 2020, out of the Black Lives Matter riots came the defund the police movement, and many cities, Portland as an example, they started to get rid of police officers and people were able to steal with seemingly impunity. That was then enabled by politicians, particularly Democrats, who said shoplifters aren't criminals, they're victims. They're victims of an economic system, they're victims of racism. In fact, some Democrat politicians said that shoplifters were simply taking back what was theirs. They were just getting their payments from the slave trade. And then you had corporations who stopped teaching staff to prevent crime and instead told staff, if someone is stealing from the shop, then you just stand back, let it happen. In fact, we've had shopkeepers who were sacked for trying to stop shoplifting. Take all of that, put it on social media for the whole world to see, and then you get people in Australia in the middle of a cost of living crisis. We see people robbing stores in the States with impunity, and you start to think, well, maybe I'm a victim too. I mean, I didn't cause high interest rates. I didn't cause, my power bills to go through the roof. So I'm not going to do what they're doing in America. But if I take a little something here, a little something there, am I really that bad? And so we're seeing a breakdown in society, but it's happened over time as politicians and corporations have taken their eyes off the ball and started to make excuses for petty crime.
But Evelyn, what we see in America, and honestly, YouTube now is full of videos like the several I've shown. Do you think it really would catch on here?
Look, I think it's an inevitable consequence of cutting off the branch that you're sitting on. I think the Western world has been prosperous for such a long time because of our justice systems. I think that we have a great criminal justice system. We have lower crime rates than many nations around the world, and that's why we've succeeded. But if you keep hacking away at the foundations of a society, eventually it's going to come crumbling down. So I do think with incremental compromises, especially on justice, especially because in Australia we're seeing rehabilitation overtake justice. And whenever that happens, chaos is going to ensue. In America, they've just lowered it from, if somebody steals something under $950, it's gone from a felony to a misdemeanor. So it's always going to end up in chaos. When you break down the fences around your society, you've got to wonder, why do bad things keep happening in our yard? And one of the basic principles of life is that if you fail to punish bad behavior, you're going to get more of it. And back in line with the Black Lives Matter movement and the defund the police, which is encroaching in our culture in Australia, there was a great saying that came out, which is, if you want to make enemies with the police officers, you better start making friends with the criminals.
I'm afraid that's only too true. James Macpherson, Evelyn Ray, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate that.